inspirational point for a lot of people who are, you know, trying to hit the goal through those Masters tours.
And I think whenever we have seen him play, you can clearly see he wants this, right? He is very, very hungry for more success within Hearthstone. And I imagine that is going to just be a matter of time as maybe he gets more comfortable in the system. With the more he plays, obviously, the more relaxed he'll be towards the game, and maybe that'll help him going forward. But for now, he could make some big strides right here and now. But to do so, he does have to take down SilverName. So maybe the gap between these two players, not necessarily in skill, but just in sheer experience, is huge. As SilverName is one of the most long-standing Hearthstone pros we actually have, just in general.
That's very true. Yeah, they're one of those little trivia breaks that we have in our breaks was, you know, gave the unbelievable fact of how much, you know, prize money SilverName had earned in Hearthstone before he even turned 20. You know, that's how long he's been in the game up until this point. So yeah, Bankyugi certainly giving up a lot in terms of experience, but we are ready to dive into it now. And I do think Bankyugi has a potentially decent matchup on his side here. We've seen multiple times already today just the ability for Highlander Hunter to just go that little bit too quickly for the Shaman to deal with without access to an early Lightning Bloom play, and just, you know, flood the board too aggressively through the early turns to really allow that turn 5 play to really swing the board back. But SilverName off to a smooth start with the Tour Guide, landing that totem down early. Without any guaranteed follow-up for the following turn, chooses to cash in the totem immediately, allowing for the possibility that he might also just have to press totem on the following turn as well.
And there was, I'm definitely not going to call it a punish by any means, but Bankyugi did throw the Demon Companion away and didn't actually get a playable one-drop in his mulligan. So not an issue, but just an unfortunate outcome. Does still get to coin out the Felmore, but all I want to see from Bankyugi, especially in the first few turns, is him doing everything possible to cement early board, because that is just what you need. If you don't put much pressure on versus Shaman, and then they've got to that Bog Spine Knuckles turn without being under much threat, those are the games you are going to lose as Hunter, because you don't really have the tools to recover from, say, you know, the board of 4 drops, for example, with the Hares afterwards, or even the Evolved Dread Corsairs. You don't really have the tools available unless you're already ahead on board.
Right, and in a complete role reversal, it's really been SilverName that's got off to the quick start here. It is just a bunch of totems on board, but each of those totems, of course, represents a real threat as we start to roll in to the Bogspine Knuckles turn. That Unleash the Hounds draw, though, from Bankyugi might be exactly the ticket he needs to fight back on board.
It's absolutely huge, and I really love that he's gone for it here. He can actually clear a lot of this off as well if he puts the 2/1/1s into the 1 health minions, leave that totem up. It's the least threatening one there. Now Bankyugi has control of the board.
But for how long, Raven? These back-to-back turns now, the Bogspine Knuckles plus Dread Corsair turn that's coming up, followed up with the Desert Hare and then Horde Pillager to juice it up again. SilverName really establishing himself as the aggressor from this point, even though he has fallen behind. And that is crucial for Bankyugi's chances, because you were just talking about it. This is that turn, that Unleash the Hounds turn that Bankyugi just played, that was really the tipping point, right? Like, he could not end one more turn being significantly behind on board as he was.
And although, as I am wont to do now and again in a cast, making silly points, it's one of those weird ones where just looking at the hand from SilverName, if he wasn't locked, I wouldn't have actually hated, like, Hare Broom this turn, you know, to clear off the dogs potentially and just leave a Hare versus the 5/3 to set up for the weapon turn. Of course, he's overloaded, but it's just one of those weird plays where I think board is that important that you would actually trade Hares away in this kind of board state. Of course, you can't do that, so with the totem up and maybe this Titanic Lucky, if he's looking at maybe just not taking as much damage.
Such an odd turn, isn't it? Because the Titanic Lackey itself doesn't really do anything apart from being a 1/1, because, you know, the Felmore can just cleanly trade through whatever you end up buffing anyway. So it's really just about having a 1/1 on board, which I think is reasonable, because if you look at the curve of his rest of his mana, it's not necessarily clear when that final 1/1 is going to come down. It's possible that it happens on the Desert Hare turn. Like, you play the Desert Hare, you evolve everything with your second swing of the Bogspine Knuckles, and then you use Broom and the Taunt Lackey to really put things together.
Yeah, 100%, and I really like this turn as well. Even if this wasn't a 4-5, I still would have liked to see it come down because the secrets mess with that key turn 5 from SilverName, and he just has to. He's still going to do the turn, but you have to like consider what that actually means. Job's done.
Snake Trap not always to the Hunter's benefit in this matchup because of cards such as Mogu Flesh Shaper and Sea Giant that it really plays into nicely, but in this situation, Bankyugi will be very happy to see some snakes. Does just provide him with that little extra bit of beef that he needs to push through the board state and keep pushing, but this Hare and Broom on the following turn is going to need to do a lot of work because Bankyugi's doing a pretty good job now of just snowballing this board state to the point where he is staying ahead even of these evolved minions that are coming out from SilverName.
Yeah, this is looking really strong. And honestly, this, although a part of me would want to get Dragonbane down, this is the kind of board that Animal Companion can be an absolute terror because suddenly all 3 outcomes are good. And that's when you really want your Animal Companion to come down, when there's no real bad outcome. When your bad outcome, you could argue, would be Misha, you're pretty okay with that.
There's also an argument here for Petting Zoo as well, I would say, just while you have the guaranteed secret to get value out of it. There's no necessarily not a guarantee that you'll be able to do that in the future. You do just have that clean triple trade with the snakes through, which, you know, you're kind of solving your own problem. You are spreading wide again with the Petting Zoo, but because you triple trade the snakes away, you are cutting down some of that Sea Giant and Mogu Flesh Shaper math.
And also ensuring that pack tactics does go off, right? Because it's the weird thing where it just won't proc if the board's already full, so sometimes a player can utilize that to their advantage, actually.
Yes. Slightly awkward draws for SilverName, though. Would have loved, you know, just another decent 1 or 2 drop minion to be able to throw down here to get some decent value off that Broom.
Yep.
Right now, it looks like it's just going to be Totem alongside the Hares.
Yeah, and that definitely would have been best for him, but I do think this Broom is clutch.
Yes.
And it's something we've not seen a lot, or even in every Shaman deck, right? There are plenty of Shaman players that don't run Broom as well. But this is huge. This is a way for SilverName to just push Bankyugi off the board, if the Evolves are kind to him, of course.
Really? Does that not go into the 4-5? Obviously, it's hard to say because of the Evolve outcomes, but that's a huge outcome with the Fishy Flyer. But yeah, you could send the 4 damage from your weapon into that to begin with, right? Which, yes, you take an extra point of damage from the hit, but then you'd be able to slam your Broom into it afterwards, guaranteed, coming out as the rush to finish it off. Like, this did leave it up a little bit to fate on the Evolves as to whether you're going to be able to efficiently clean that up.
I'm also shocked with that trade. Wouldn't you have put the Elemental in?
To
protect Ganling? Because look, he turns them all into 4-drops, right? So
sure.
Lucky can be a 4-drop next to
That's fair.
And so on. Like, I would have left the health on that 100 times out of 100.
That's a good point. But regardless, quibbles with the sequencing and the targets, that was for sure the swing turn that SilverName needed after falling behind for the last 2 turns. Broom, just such a powerful card in basically all of the decks it appears in. We've seen its efficacy in Paladin, now we're seeing it put in the work in Shaman as well, and I think Bankyugi really wanted a huffer there because I think Face is just about the only place available to him at this point.
Yeah, after that swing turn, this game gets awfully simple if you're the Hunter player. Your opponent's on 12-10, of course, with the hero power you're available to you this turn. You make this game very simple. Go Face until they're dead, because you are not winning board back.
Another Dread Corsair to go with the Horde Pillager. SilverName can choose to leave that unevolved, just play it for 0 after any weapon swings happen, which would, you know, play around eventual Dino Tamer Brand coming down, which is possible next turn. I guess not with Gandling in play, but you do have the opportunity to trade it off, I suppose.
Yeah, if you Horde Pillager then swung, the Gandling would evolve anyway, right?
That's true.
And then you can play it afterwards.
Good point. Yep.
But this Gandling is so sick. Like, I mean, you could even just play like Pitmaster. He doesn't even have to equip the weapon this turn.
It does feel like a good turn not to take 8 from a Dino Tamer Bran, if that's the play on curve, though.
That is true.
You might be able to set up worlds where you can just make that play illegal anyway, because you have lethal on the counter swing, if that's your opponent's plan, which is very viable here as well.
Because max is 8 in that form, right? There is no extra damage that turn. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but certainly
cool.
This is the play that leapt out to me. Wait, did SilverName just not set up lethal?
Right, he's 1 off, right? Ah, that's what Instructor Fire Heart's for. It'll get there. Oh, wait.
He has Molten Blast. He has Molten Blast.
Molten Blast go face?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was just scanning the cards. And this has just suddenly got very unfun for Bankyugi, didn't it? There's just not a lot he can do facing down this board, even though one of the minions is a 0/5. So a pretty low roll there for SilverName. Everything else looks fantastic.
Yep. This is a pretty nice Dwarven Sharpshooter, though, already carving away a lot of that damage. Potential for Dragonbane to do more work, and honestly, that's a decent chunk of work right there, it's got to be said.
Never be afraid.
So now SilverName has to go fishing for the Fireheart outs instead. Rock Biter weapon!
That gets there, right? Makes up the damage he lost from the 3/2.
Yep, now finish the job with Molten Blast, regardless of what gets offered here, but Frost Shock will do the job just nicely as well. Seven coming in from the weapon, and then dealer's choice of how SilverName wants to end this game. The result is going to be the same. He even gets a nice 2 bonus spells off the Spell Burst for his
And
trouble.
the draw.
And the draw. Oh, Witch's Brew. Oh, beautiful.
Wow.
Everything's coming up SilverName. Nice
Talk about
and clean 1-0 for Silver.
Yeah, talk about overkill there. But that was a huge game there. That could have easily gone either way, as you saw how close Bankyugi got. But that big turn from SilverName, not only the gambling, of course, which I did go on about, but the broom made the world of difference there. Without that, it would have been that like 1 turn slower, right? And that 1 turn maybe was all that Bankyugi needed to actually win that game. So some of these key cards and inclusions in these lists coming in clutch and actually taking very important games here for these players. So SilverName does start 1-0 up now. He does have his warrior and his own hunter left. So for me, at least, based on what I've seen from these decks, he is looking in an even stronger point there. For me, goes beyond the 1-0 lead and into the actual lineups and what decks he has left now.
Yes. Questions to be asked about this Bomb Warrior that SilverName has. It's a bit of an unusual build, and right on cue, it looks like we are going to see some Bomb Warrior, but it's from the other side with Bankyugi, who is, for contrast, providing what we would refer to as the standard list, even with that Iron Beak Owl thrown in there. We have been seeing that from the majority of players, whereas SilverName on the other side is running a Ringmaster Watley package, which means he's playing a Clockwork Goblin in there as well, which is not a card that we've seen for quite some time up until this point. So a little bit of contrast there, and I think not really a build that we've seen put in too much work on SilverName's side, and it is going to end up being that Bomb Warrior mirror.
Yeah, both players running Acidic Swampoos as well, so I guess they kind of negate each other to an extent.
Sure.
But I do wonder what impact the Watley can have, because there are moments when you don't quite get the draw you need. That's called Corsair Cash, I guess. This deck can run a little bit dry sometimes on card draw, as it's not doing the big Battle Rage turns, right, that we see from other warrior archetypes or anything like that. So I have found, at least when I've played Watley in various different types of warrior, that card is actually insane. It just, even though you might have to build your deck a certain way, the sheer just number of cards it can draw for one card itself, and as a body, it's not the worst shape for what you really want to achieve as well. It is just a very powerful card in itself. So I'm excited to see just how this build does or doesn't pay off for SilverName.
Yeah, and speaking of building your deck in a particular way, it's interesting you point out the Acidic Swampoos in SilverName's version of the deck. So I know that is a point of contention when you're putting this version of the deck together as to which weapon destruction you want to run. Because obviously the alternative of Kobold Sticky Finger is a pirate, so you have the opportunity to tutor it off your Watley. However, that means that you're not guaranteed a Horde Pillager, which a lot of people will argue is the preferential outcome in a lot of situations. So I've heard people argue that both ways, that if you're running weapon destruction, having the ability to draw it more consistently by having that Pirate Tutor off Watley and having Kobold Sticky Finger is an upside, whereas other people have argued that's just a downside, because then you're going to be hitting your Horde Pillagers less often.
It's a really tricky one, and really it's a judgment on what you expect to face more, right? And what you see the lineups doing. But anyway, we are getting into this game. The first couple of turns, nothing too mind-blowing, but now double Wrench Caliber and a Horde Pillager already in Bankyugi's hand. So he has those weapon swings, what's going to feel like forever at this point. Whereas SilverName does have a Wrench Caliber and a Horde Pillager of his own and an upgrade, which means, for me, both players are more or less just on an even footing at this point, looking at these hands. Even the double Galacron.
That's it. I was going to say you could probably break the tie by saying if one of these players had Galacron, that they are in a fairly dominant position. But the fact that they both have that as well this is going to be an explosive opening. And we've already cast One Bomb Warrior Mirror today, and I was talking about how you really want that fight to establish dominance. You want to be the one that's established yourself as the aggressor, so you are pushing the face damage, and your opponent is having to defend. When both players have almost exactly the same hand, that's going to be a tricky thing for either player to do.
And what's really funny is even the way the different cards have worked, right? The Goblin has put an extra bomb in the deck, so SilverName is ahead on that front. But
Sure.
Bankyugi got to swing first, and his 3-drop gave him armor, even though the Goblin then technically did more damage with the swing into it. So even with these different cards, they still kind of end up even. It's already shaping up to be a pretty funny game. This isn't a bad swing Horde Pillager evolve, right? With that Witchy Lackey?
Looks reasonable, yeah. I think during these mid-game turns, you do want to occupy the board with minions as often as you can, because it really encourages your opponent to swing their weapon into the minions, which would then be a victory. We saw on this turn, if the exchange went, that Bankyugi swung face, played some minions, and then SilverName had to respond by swinging into a minion. That's advantage Bankyugi at that point.
Right.
Kind of goes against conventional value-based Hearthstone, that killing a minion with your weapon is usually seen as a good thing. But this matchup is just a straight-up race back and forwards for damage, even though both decks are as resilient as they are bursty.
And you see this now, what could have been seen as a straightforward, oh, well, you have upgrade. That kills the 4/4 very cleanly. It was upgrade on a weapon that had low durability, whereas now SilverName doing it this way, he can actually just have the upgrade on the bigger weapon, so to speak, so he gets more value out of that card. But the downside is, of course, that he's just left a 4/4 up.
Yeah, curious about this play. When he was into the 1/1, was wondering if he was just going to go Blade Storm this turn instead, like Blade Storm armor up, just to preserve the health from tanking into the 4/4. But doing it this way, sure, he attacks the smaller minion, but the bigger minion is still just right there, and it's going to smack him in the face, and then there's a good chance that he's going to have to potentially swing into it on the following turn anyway.
Especially because it's not even a you blink first kind of play where it's like, well, okay, I might have to swing into this 4/4 next turn, but Bankyugi will have to swing into my 4/2 this turn, but Sword and Board's just there, Shield Slam's just there. The removal for this 4/2 is very simple and efficient for Bankyugi, so I do feel like, although SilverName has used his mana last turn to get this weapon live, he is going to be a little bit behind now on damage. This does open him up for a coin Galacron, though, if that's what he's aiming for. Do you think that's what he has in mind?
It's very possible, actually, yeah. Being able to front-load the weapon like this is a big deal. Making sure he can take care of the 4/4. Might just have been hopefully setting himself up for a Blade Storm, willing to invest that little bit of damage taken into loading up this weapon and Blade Storming on the following turn. Ooh, that cutting class draw is going to influence proceedings, I think, yes.
Go away, coin Galacron, you can come back later.
Because the problem is, this goes back to my whole shtick about establishing yourself as the aggressor, right? Playing Galacron is a play you get to do when you've done that, right? From the defensive position, playing Galacron doesn't feel anywhere near as good because you're sacrificing a lot of your resiliency by losing the armor up hero power. So,
right.
Bankyugi's options to jam Galacron here, I think, look a lot more promising than SilverName's do, because he has such a significant health advantage right now. But he
Really?
also picks up a cutting class to tempt him away from doing so.
I think it's still Galakron, though. I like it a lot. Galakron this turn, you swing for 3, then Wrench Caliber Hero Power. SilverName's really dead at that point, right?
Yeah, Wrench Caliber Hero Power Cutting class all fits in on the following turn as well.
And also, you get to play Galakron when your opponent, outside of the weapon, is presenting 0 threats.
Yes.
This feels like the perfect time for Galakron.
Not to mention the minion draw, which is an often overlooked part of this. It could be Blastmaster Boom. It could have been name of Rushy Buffy Weapon Man, who I've forgotten immediately at this point. Krasnov, how did I forget that?
Pretty common.
You know, there's a lot of very impactful minions that you can hit in the deck of this. He did hit just Evil Quartermaster, which isn't going to be the biggest deal, but it's still a huge chunky boy that he can just throw out on a following turn.
And that's the other side to that coin, really, isn't it? Is that if you don't hit any of the big things, well, now he has a 3-mana really big minion that's cheap that you can weave in with Galakron Hero Powers very easily that SilverName has to respect because Bankyugi's ahead. So this Galakron play really has just cemented everything Bankyugi wants to do in this game.
So tempted by a 12-12. My eyes light up when I have the ability to just tempo an 8-mana 12-12. It's one of my favourite plays in Hearthstone.
Now SilverName taking the opportunity himself, not facing down any at least visible threats from Bankyugi to play his own Galakron. He got the Watley, which again isn't bad. He's going to be able to draw more cards, but I think SilverName's less concerned with drawing cards and more concerned with getting ahead on board and closing this health gap that has appeared.
Agreed. Upgrade, solid pickup for Bankyugi this turn. Essentially works out as free alongside the cutting class if that's the line he does want to go for. But, of course, there is that temptation of just playing a big minion this turn. But honestly, minions on board, I do think, start to lose a little bit of value as time goes on in this matchup. You do want them early so you can start getting that chip damage in and establish yourself as the aggressor. But it gets to a point where they have removal for your threats. They're warrior, like it does come down. I do think prioritizing just straight up damage is superior in a lot of spots. It seems like Bankyugi agrees here.
Yeah, however much part of my instincts are telling me, well, if you play a minion and they have removal, they've spent mana on removal and not killing you. But you missed hero power, and I think that's what pushes me over the edge, honestly. Like, not pressing that Galakron hero power seems like a massive waste.
Bomb off the top as well is brutal for SilverName. He still has 4 bombs remaining in his deck at this point as well.
This will break your
Does get a Titanic Lackey, so he can put some kind of barricade in the way for Bankyugi hitting him in the face once again. But what does it really do? And I think that's the problem SilverName has right now. Like, yes, he can maybe make Bankyugi tank the minion with his weapon. But what else? How does he make this 23 damage 23 health, of his opponent go away?
Sorry, I just really enjoyed how you very carefully selected your word there and came up with barricade of all things.
It's because I was picking words. I was like, no, I don't like that one. No, I don't like that one. Okay, now the sentence is getting an awkward pause. I'm just going to say a word and stick with it.
Barricade. Perfect. That's what I was waiting for. Thanks, Brain.
It's more like, thanks, Brain. I'll deal with you later.
Yeah.
That Watley, though, is a pretty big barricade, though, at 7-11.
Yep. It's a juicy looking brawl, I think, potentially on the other side, though, for Bankyugi.
It does feel like it's worth it, right? Any outcome except exactly Watley probably just wins Bankyugi the game there and then.
Shield Block presents good options, though. It might be that Bankyugi is just going to go with a double Shield Slam line here instead.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
That is pretty interesting too, because now... No, it's still one off, isn't it? Trying to find ways to punch through and hero power and swing face.
It's why I was looking at just Brawl initially anyway, because
Yeah, exactly.
of course you don't want to lose the Brawl in this sense, but if you win, you get to press the hero power, which means SilverName's pretty much just dead. This is still powerful, of course.
It is. The missed hero power is a bit of a shame because obviously you can see how relevant that 3 damage breakpoint would end up being. That's the upside of winning the Brawl in that scenario, with the win being any minion but the taunt surviving.
Oh, and it was a bomb as well. But is it 2?
Could still be another one.
Oh.
SilverName just doesn't have it right now. He needs to put up barricades, as Raven might say, but he does not have the ability to do so right now.
Surely IMB Cal would make a great barricade.
He's going to need to draw cards this turn, and we know where drawing cards can lead right now, Raven.
Is he going to go for it?
Wait, that's bomb number 5 going into Bankyugi's deck? Okay. He needs 4 of them?
This is just the play, isn't it?
The smile on SilverName's face. Now I will spend the rest of this turn figuring out the best irrelevant play to make with the rest of my mana.
That is just very funny.
Alright, 19 cards remaining, 5 of them are bombs. That's 1. 3 more to go.
No.
Okay.
Well, that was a letdown. Less dramatic than we would have wanted, but Bankyugi does get a game win, and that means it's all going to be even 1-1 now between these players. Him taking the win in that Warrior Mirror, and honestly, going to be a bit of a nice boost of confidence, right? You don't want to go 0-3-0-3 out. Like, that is just not something you're after. So I think Bankyugi just getting that win, it's like, all right, okay, I'm not cursed. I can win games of Hearthstone. Let's go and finish off this series. So pretty good now that we've got that even series, but still, I am just a little bit worried about this Highlander Priest, just based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, but I do think you can kind of double up on the positives here for Bankyugi as well, because I think that Warrior getting out of the series for SilverName would really spell disaster for Bankyugi's chances, because if you look at the way his lineup is constructed, I think hunting down that Bomb Warrior 3 times might just be his best path to victory in this series. So picking up that win in the Bomb Warrior Mirror, I think, is a very, very big deal, because you look at his Highlander Priest, for example, with Cobalt Sticky Finger and Ooze thrown in there, and then all the healing and the utility that Zephyrus provides. Aggro Highlander Hunter having a solid matchup there as well against the non-risky skipper build of the deck. So I do think keeping that Bomb Warrior on SilverName's side pinned into the series and not allowing it to escape with a win is a very, very big deal, even outside of just the mental boost that you were talking about, where not having a single game win on the board so far in this tournament is a
And here it looks like we are going to be getting into a good old Hunter Mirror. And you can see actually one of the cards that Bankyugi is bringing that personally I'm a big fan of in Highlander Hunter. It took me a few goes to just test it out a little bit, but Trampling Rhino, one of the new 5 drops from this expansion, is pretty powerful. Its rush effect, and the effect on the card is any overkill damage basically goes straight to the face. So even if it's not getting, say, 4+ damage from killing a 1 health minion, any damage extra is huge, but if it lives, it is a must-kill target for your opponent, because you can't just let a minion not only trade, potentially, but trade whilst pushing extra damage to face. So it can be a big, big deal, whereas a lot of players aren't choosing to bring it in their versions. But we are getting straight into it, and wow, a fantastic offering here for SilverName pre-Mulligan coming in here. I wouldn't be even overly surprised at a full keep. Bankyugi, though, not having as strong an option, but now Mystery Winner and a Voracious Reader can at least help him keep the cards coming.
It is true. I do certainly agree with your assessment that SilverName's hand looks pretty fantastic. The only minor conflict I see there is Voracious Reader plus Zephyrus if you're going to go for a full keep, because Zephyrus is a card that you might want to keep in your hand for a few turns for that real premium opportunity, whereas Voracious Reader encourages you to really dump your hand as fast as possible. But I think just the average power level of the cards that you have there in your opening hand very possibly does justify the full keep.
And yeah, I completely agree, of course, but I think this leads you to doing plays along the lines of Zephyrus Backstab, Zephyrus Lightning Bolt, things like that, to just take the board away, because it is very difficult to fight back. And then because you have the Voracious Reader, using the Zephyrus in such a liberal fashion doesn't feel as punishing. So I do like it overall. But you are right. Depending on how SilverName approaches this, it could get a bit weird for his hand.
Zephyrus Lightning Bolt, Raven. Someone's living in the past. Come on. We're Holy Smite gamers now.
I think it still offers me Lightning Bolt. I think it tries to punish me. Just get me overloaded.
It just knows you're a true Hunter player, so even when there's a nice juicy 3/3 on the board, you still want the option to go face with that Lightning Bolt.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just clearly the better card. And already we're getting into the part where the mind games happen with the secrets. Oh, never mind. No, we're not. SilverName just like trade instantly.
It's a pretty good Zephyrus Backstab right now.
Yeah. And then look at the next turn, right? He can go Felmore, Dwarven, and then just X Voracious or whatever he draws off the top. It just get the cards out of your hand. It's almost a similar situation to when we were casting the SYF match, right? Of just saying, well, you have so many cards that are just playable, just get them played out. So they're out of your hand, you can draw more, but also you just focus on keeping hold of that board.
SilverName going to go the other way around, though. A little bit lower tempo, but more investment in the future here. It's incredibly strong play once this wakes up in 2 turns, and when he can then back that up with the Zephyrus in hand alongside this card draw that he will pick up from the Voracious Reader. This is probably going to work out pretty well for him. And Bankyugi, having that Voracious Reader of his own in his hand, is not really finding this flood of cheap cards that SilverName has been picking up.
Yeah, this hand is just horrible for Bankyugi, honestly. We might even see just a Dragonbane played out as just a 3/5 that will tank some damage.
Oh, into the, wake up Felmore turn, though? That's so disgusting if it just gets traded off immediately.
All these other plays aren't too pretty either, that's the problem.
You're not wrong.
My worry for Dragonbane is if you wait till potentially, the turn 6, which is the usual turn you see play hero power, will it just not matter anymore? Is the problem. I'm not saying he should just definitely play it, but it's something to consider. At least it is just a 3/5.
SilverName with a bit of grimace on his face, knowing that this could go quite badly wrong for him, and it in fact has. That is the bad outcome. Attacking into the minion, summoning the snakes, and then getting caught up in the freezing as well. So that is a very, very big board swing for Bankyugi. Not in the least, because it messes with the Voracious Reader as well.
Although it's a great play from Bankyugi setting that up, it's one of those positives where at least SilverName just got rid of 2 secrets now, right? The information is very clean, so now he can start to work again, because he does still have the initiative, being able to have these minions trade how he wants them, potentially clear off 2 snakes, get a secret of his own active.
Yes.
So he does still have initiative, and all the information's out in the open now. He doesn't have to think or worry about secrets, at least in the short term.
Yeah, it's very clear that those secrets were forced plays from Bankyugi. Yeah. Evidenced by the fact that he paid mana for them, first and foremost. He just played them out of his hand, which you never want to be doing in this deck. But also, he's had to cash them in without getting any value out of that petting zoo up until this point. So it does spell that he's been scrambling from behind to this point. And even though that secret combination was a decent swing turn for Bankyugi, it's really not enough to have dragged him all the way back into this just yet.
Yeah, definitely one of those turns where it's made me not lose right now, as opposed to winning him the game. This might depend on what the secret is for Bankyugi. Could be considered to be that Dragonbane turn I mentioned, but of course Pat Tactics does upset that quite a lot.
Yeah, involves leaving up a Voracious Reader again, though, doesn't it? Which is kind of terrifying.
There's a 4-mana Felmore in hand that you know about, though.
That is true, yeah. Leaves him 1 card being held in the hand for quite some time at this point, but it was also a kept card in the Zephyrus. So, you know, well, I mean, possible to be Dino Tamer Bran, I guess, considering how strong the rest of SilverName's early curve was. Although, having now seen Voracious Reader, I don't think you put your opponent on that keep ever, right? Voracious Reader plus Dino Tamer Bran, that probably doesn't make any sense.
Yep, I'd agree with that. I do like the use coming down from Bankyugi as well. Just put something in the way for SilverName to have to consider here. Does have now that Dragonbane hero power turn coming up soon.
And he's out.
I know.
Snake Trap was the pull off the Phase Stalker.
Yeah, I think SilverName's running low on secrets now, I think. But really, this Zephyrus is still going to be huge because SilverName has managed to stay ahead in the game. So instead of Zephyrus being used super early to get ahead, now Zephyrus can be used to ensure that SilverName has an answer to any one problem, right? So if this Dragonbane comes down, he can kill it 100% of the time if he chooses so. Same with Bran. If Bran comes down, he might get hit in the head for 8, but then he can just 4 mana, I guess, kill it no problem, forget about it, and then move on from there. So this Zephyrus, although there were options earlier on for SilverName, because he's managed to stay ahead and not use Zephyrus, he can now leverage it so much more.
Momentary confusion from Bankyugi, I'm sure. I think he might just have a moment here to check with the admins that his opponent didn't DC there, because that was a slightly strange behavior, but no, it is all good.
I'd love it, honestly, if there was just the instant play from Bankyugi end turn. the ladder play. If your opponent ropes and seems AFK, you jam your card as quick as possible, end turn, and hope they're not back yet.
Are you that scumbag? I rope. Like, I give them time to come back.
On ladder? Don't go AFK.
Wow. That's such a role reversal, because like I generally am like a scumbag when it comes to competition, so we'd expect this dynamic to be reversed.
Look, time is precious, okay?
Yeah, fair enough.
It's going to be the Dragonbane hero power here from Bankyugi.
Nice.
He does get the better of the 2 outcomes, or the 3 outcomes, should I say.
The juice. SilverName has it.
SilverName's going to Dragonbane this Dragonbane every single time. It's not even a question. Nope. Don't even look at Zephyrus. Easy.
Easiest 5 damage of his life. Honestly, like, it's easy to just meme that as like, yeah, it's a SilverName play. He's just going to go for the flip, right? But I actually respect it because the Zephyrus play was just ugly, right? Like, nothing else really fit in with the curve for, like, Shadow Word Pain. There was nothing, like, you know, hugely effective he could fit in. Weaving in a hero power wasn't really spectacular that turn. So, in terms of mana efficiency, making the most powerful play, Dragonbane hero power, win the flip, was pretty good.
Yeah, because even if you don't win it and kill it, well, they have to do the same to you then, to an extent, right? And then SilverName just has Bran. So he still stays ahead, even for the worst outcome. But the better outcome, he is very ahead.
See, there was a lot of secret considerations to go through there, with the secret being from Rifle, but you know, anytime there was 4 minions in play there, and you had the potential of 5 extra damage from Dragonbane going face with the hero power, I think you had to take a cursory look at lethal outs that turn before you started.
I was looking at Savage Roar at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, seems like as good a turn as any to get this Felmore back down. Smack a bunch of damage back into the face.
And this is some really nice play, actually, because I think a lot of players would have just gone, Bran, go. You know, once those trades were made and you feel relatively safe, you can just play Bran, go face. But this just banks more and more guaranteed damage from Dragonbane. And it is very difficult for Bran coming down for it to be like hard countered, right? When you have minions on board, you can check for freezing, you can check for misdirection if you've already got minions. Then Bran's always safe. It always banks that 8. So I like this a lot from SilverName.
Got to be MD in that situation, I would suspect. He now has Explosive Trap Misdirection equipped. Freezing, I think, would have been ideal for him in that scenario, but having missed the freezing, I think Misdirection is the next best thing.
little bit unfortunate that this Felmor's, I would say, maybe a turn late to the party. If it proc then, the secret could potentially be checked, and then it could be like Bran into Zephyrus lethal the turn after.
Sure.
He could still just sort of hold on to his Highlander cards again, because I believe he still has the Vorpatingers, right? Might be wrong.
Let's see. SilverName does not have Warpatinger remaining. No, he played it on turn 1, right? He played Warpatinger coin 2/2 coin battle mage, I believe, on turn 1.
Oh, of course, okay.
I mean, he hasn't checked freezing. He hasn't checked misdirection.
Doesn't matter. You still do it. No, it's probably going to be a big game, right? Yeah.
Yep. PG.
So, and mainly just because this is an extra minion. Of course, explosive chap. Explosive shot.
Explosive chap.
Achieved the same thing. It did some damage to Bran, but SilverName, of course, valuing the extra minion on board, not only for just more damage going forward, but also just to try and dissect these secrets.
Right.
Just doesn't look like it's going to cut it, does it?
It does not, no. Of course, as you mentioned, Bankyugi is running that extra trampling rhino, which means that is now on top of his deck after the Polk help. But he has bigger problems to solve before he gets to that point. He does know that he has Explosive Trap in play, though, so none of these minions actually connect to face as it stands.
It's a strange one, right? Because he knows they don't connect, but should he try and like get a value trade on Bran then? Should he maybe kill the 1/1 because it's a beast that can potentially proc kill command or anything like that? Because he does have a lot of damage to make up for as well, like 25. That is a long way away at this point for Bankyugi to catch up. He's surviving, but he's not winning yet.
SilverName just going through the motions, ticking off these secrets and traps that he has not checked for yet. Now he gets the news that they are both face-interacting secrets at this point.
I honestly just like the bow here, right?
He has to deal with the threat of misdirection, right? Without it being the Dino Tamer brand that misses, or the King Crush rather, that misses that attack connecting with face.
And even if it's Explosive Trap, it kills his minions. Annoying, but okay. He doesn't need his minions if he has bow. Bow's 10 damage over 2 turns. The brand's 8.
I thought he'd already checked Pressure Plate, but I might be wrong. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Spend your mana, Sol.
Yeah, no, good point. Can't argue with that.
He's got mana, he's got a card that can cast. No problem. It's a misdirection.
Yeah, but crucially, still plenty of health to play with. Yep. Still goes down to 13. He's removed all of his own minions from the board, which is nice because he knows that the next draw is Trampling Rhino, so he doesn't take any more immediate damage from that. And then with the 3 from the weapon, plus the 2 from the Hero Power, plus the 8 from the King Crush, he has everything nicely set up for the following turn. So even though there was a bit of a mess of a nest of secrets that SilverName had to find his way through, he found the guaranteed lethal line because, of course, with Polkel in play, he knew exactly what the next draw was going to be from Bankyugi and what he was going to have to do to beat it.
Yeah, and it was really just a almost a typical Hunter mirror story where if one player does get ahead, we saw some good plays from Bankyugi, some ones where he had to just piece together, even over multiple turns, ways to survive and not fall too far behind. As you could see there, as the game went on and SilverName stayed ahead, the health difference just just changed everything because SilverName could just trade interface, he could just take damage, he could take another 4 from the Polkel if needed, and still have more than enough health to be 100% safe, especially knowing what draws were going to be after the Polkel from Bankyugi. So just solid play, honestly, and I do like the way both players played that. I just think SilverName having the really strong opening he did and that flexibility of having the Zephyrus available just pushed him over the edge there and just allowed him to be so much safer going forward and so much more aggressive, actually.
Yeah, it was just the quality of that opening, right? You know, we talked about how Bankyugi's plays just felt forced, like it was SilverName just dictating the play the whole time, which is not how it's supposed to be, because I believe he went second in the matchup, right, coining out double 1-drop on turn 1. So the initiative really should have been on Bankyugi's side. Which I believe he did keep a 1-1, 1-1 Discover a Secret, which, isn't exactly a premium 1-drop in terms of tempo there, in terms of digging for the board state. And there's a couple of times I've seen players do that in decks where there's lots of 1-drops available. There's this old Zoo philosophy where, when Zoo used to be incredibly low curve across the board because of the efficiency of cards like Nerubian Egg and Haunted Creeper, step one was like, okay, I have some 1-cost cards in my hand, great, I'll keep these. And then as time went on, you learned which 1-drops were appropriate for which matchups and started to mulligan a lot more particularly to go through. And I wonder whether maybe a touch of that might have been appropriate there for Bankyugi to improve the quality of his turn 1 play.
As I was learning the game more and more, it was something I struggled with because I always thought, but if I mulligan this 1-drop and just don't hit one, even though it's likely, I just did that for no reason. I could have played something, then you're behind, then you lose, and you feel like it was because of your mulligan, which it kind of was, but kind of wasn't, if that makes sense. Just because something goes wrong doesn't mean it was wrong. But anyway, looking at what the next matchup is going to be, SilverName does have that Bomb Warrior. He did lose in the mirror match a little bit earlier in this series, but he's got it to go again. Just the key cards, of course, being that Watley package with Clockwork Goblin in there as well. So a nice inclusion. Again, just to go over it once more, I'm not sure if it's the most optimal or best, in air quotes, that you can't see me making, tech or version of the list. But it is something I do think will be explored more and will obviously potentially get better over time as well, as obviously more cards, maybe more mechs, dragons, pirates that are more relevant to Warrior get added.
Yeah, I mean, it is just so much juice in one card, right?
Yeah.
It really is just one of those things that's just going to depend on the card quality that you can draw off it, right? Which I'm not sure is necessarily there right now for what Bomb Warrior is trying to do, but it's there or thereabouts. It's right on the cusp, certainly, which is, why we're seeing some people favor that build and some people go against it. SilverName really did shout out, it was really nice to see a translated interview with him. Obviously, with him not being a super confident English speaker, we don't really get to hear from him too much. And he did mention in the interview that he gave translated that he accepts the criticism that he's not always bringing the quote-unquote best lineup, but he thinks the best success for him is to bring the decks that he feels the most comfortable with and just rely on that experience and instinct to carry him through. So if that's the build that he feels comfortable with and that's his philosophy, then absolutely I stand by it.
Yeah, and then we just get another quick look at Bankyugi's Hunter, of course. Again, some key cards I do like. I am a fan of that Rhino, but just didn't seem to cut it. But the mirrors are always tough to look at, as they are in most classes, of course. But the Hunter mirror, there's so little chance at pulling yourself back into a game. It can often look worse than it really is. So I still got a lot of faith in Bankyugi and this lineup. And the Hunter, I think, is the more likely to get a win. I'm just very interested to see how the Priest does if Bankyugi can get this win with this Hunter.
Yeah, I do really think, as I said earlier, this Bomb Warrior is the question mark for SilverName, just overall and specifically in this series, right? Like I think on average, this very face hunter focused variant of Highlander Hunter should be able to go underneath Bomb Warrior quite effectively, and then clearly his Highlander Priest is tech towards this matchup with all of the weapon destruction and all of the healing he has thrown in there to play around these eventualities. So this is really the series just beginning at this point. Bankyugi is coming at it from a slightly unfavorable position, but perhaps not as unfavorable as being 2-1 down might suggest, because he certainly has the potential for some good matchups on his side.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the tough ones that SilverName's going to have here against Hunter. Is the removal never feels like it lines up well enough, especially when you aren't playing the risky skipper package to not only clear weird shaped boards, but also gain more health with the Armor Smiths. So this is one of those weird things where you end up like Bladestorming a board with like a 2 health minion and 2 1 health minions, and you're like, I don't know why I did this, but I think I had to save health. You know, it is, but it feels like that a lot of the time. Your removal just doesn't really line up.
It's just Raven playing Hearthstone in a nutshell. I don't really know why I did this. I was just kind of feeling
Not
it.
good at the time.
Here we are. Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of from the previous meta, the matchup Bomb Warrior versus Weapon Rogue, right? Where like they just play a 1 health minion, you have to ship your Wrench Caliber into it, and then you're just incredibly sad because there's still a whole flood more of 1 health minions to come down. And again, just night and day the difference between having the risky skipper package and not when you were facing down that matchup. And I think that's absolutely the same thing here. And oh my goodness, is that the juice from Bankyugi?
In the strangest of ways, though, isn't it? It looks fantastic, but it is slow against Bomb Warrior, which is just a little bit scary. No 1-drop could coin out the Felmar, but if he does, it leaves him a little bit stranded for the rest of his hand.
Yeah, I was assuming that we'd see a 1-drop or another 2-drop come into hand off that final draw, because almost the entire deck would fit that description at that point. I think there's still merit to just trusting your deck here, which, yeah, I think Bankyugi is absolutely going to do here. If he ends up doing this into hero power, fine. He's still front-loading all of this Felmore damage for the following turn, but his deck is so stacked now with playable cards on the following turn that I think this has to pay off far more often than not.
Right. It would be uncanny, wouldn't it? There we go. That'll do. This is going to be pretty interesting, though, because we're moving towards an almost slightly older matchup where this hunter, or at least this draw, should I say, is looking like that more mid-range style draw. Just an on-curve 1 minion per turn style.
Yeah.
Which might make SilverName have a bit more of a chance than if Bankyugi said, for example, already had like 3 minions on board right now. They'd already hit face a couple of times and started stacking up that early damage like the deck normally does. But that's not to say this opening is bad. I think that's not by any means is this opening a bad one for Bankyugi.
Yeah, I can see the merits of pulling a secret this turn. This would, of course, be the Wrench Caliber turn, so hitting Pack Tactics or Snake Trap would be fantastic here if SilverName's projected play is just equipping Wrench Caliber and swinging into one of your minions.
I do like the slight optimization there of the order as well. The hero power first, you don't have to aim the hero power. It's just some extra movements that you don't need to do.
That's right.
What now?
This minefield could be very, very good, very, very bad.
It's the bad option!
It was very, very bad. Oh, maximum damage.
Alright, Whirlwind.
Sword and board.
Whirlwind fixes everything. Okay.
Job done.
Well, this is currently shaping up to be, as they say, a quick one, Raven.
Yes, it does not look great, does it? I'm even trying to think whether it's worth for if Bankyugi's planning on Rinlin Rifle, if he would ever potentially even trade the 1/1s.
I'm kind of still just leaning Polk out here. Just Polk out and smack everything face. Like, he draws Rhino into Dragonbane on the next 2 turns, which, fills the 2 turns he needs. That's his turn 5
trade
play.
1/1s, right?
Yeah, you trade 1/1s.
Yeah,
It's his turn 5 play with the Rhino that he draws next turn. It's his turn 6 play with Dragonbane Hero Power that he draws the turn after that. And then he already has the Bran in hand for his turn 7 play. Like, it's just a perfect curve.
Okay, SilverName maybe rewarded a bit for the not-so-great minefield with a much better brawl. So I don't think he would have could have afforded taking another 4 to 5 damage this turn.
To my side.
Bankyugi's going to bail on the Rhino. Something that I think is not necessarily obvious, because I don't think playing a 5/5 this turn would be bad at all. Just because there's nothing to rush it into doesn't mean it's not a threatening minion.
Yeah, sure.
I did go for weaving in the hero power, though, of course. If he'd got Huffer, that would have been insane. But I don't think it was necessarily a given to go for that animal companion.
Yeah. Especially when the upside of thinning your deck isn't really that relevant anymore because your deck's in order, so you know what your next few draws are going to be at this point anyway. But as it stands, he did pull probably the two best secrets for this scenario, which is Pack Tactics and Snake Trap. So he has all the board resistance he can possibly get to any weapons that are going to come down to challenge this board.
So then let's get hold of that Shield Slam, get rid of the Misha, but it's only going to really get worse from here, because this 2-1 is protecting the Dragonbane from just a straight-up Blade Storm. Dragonbane is going to be able to guarantee that, of course, that 7 damage, start pounding on even more pressure, and then SilverName knows unless he draws a Wrench Caliber, he can 100% be hit by Brand next turn as well.
Yep. Yeah, he knows Bran and Rhino are in hand. Since Dragonbane is already being drawn, it would have been the Rhino from his perspective being drawn that turn.
Yeah,
if one of those cards, if one of those cards wasn't in hand, then that card that just got top decked would have been the Rhino. So he knows everything is there that he needs to be scared of.
This is the issue, right? What do you do at this point? Because if he goes Barov Blade Storm, then what does he do about the brand? Considering there are secrets down, so it's not as if he can guarantee that Deathwing is going to get the job done.
Well, he would still have the Barov in play at that point, right? So he could, if the player's brand go face, he could check freezing and so on with the Barov, and then still be able to jam the Deathwing.
You are right.
It's still not ideal because obviously you're still messing with Pack Tactics and Snake Trap at that point as well.
You'll find me wherever the action is.
This is actually pretty funny, right? Because if all of this happens regardless, let's pretend Deathwing comes down. The Rhino often does so much damage through Deathwing as well.
You'll find me wherever the
Because if it ends up trading to the 8/8, then it's going to take a ton of damage.
I think you're even being ambitious there, Raven. The Deathwing's not living through all this nonsense. There's not going to be anything there to trade into.
Oh, looks like a Brawl Blade Storm to me.
Yep.
What now?
But the news just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, right? Like, the feeling of inevitability of losing to Polkel in situations like this is crushing sometimes, because he knows that threat after threat after threat will have been coming for the last few turns. And now, guess what the next few cards in the deck are? They're Eaglehorn Bow, Kill Command, Unleash the Hounds, cards that deal direct damage, which is exactly what Bankyugi wants to be doing right now.
SilverName just hoping for the inconspicuous rider as the draw instead.
Yeah, exactly. That is the one. It's the outlier. Okay.
I actually really like Rinlin here.
Yeah, seems good.
Pack Tactics. Guess you could. It's weird, right? I don't think Bankyugi's afraid of Deathwing. Although we can see that, of course, Freezing Trap versus Deathwing is fantastic. But I don't think he's bothered if he does Deathwing, so I wonder if he should just go Pack Tactics and then just play the Petting Zoo.
Do you play the Petting Zoo, though? Is a 6/6, it's like 6/6 stats better than 2 damage at this point of the game? Again, like when 2 of your 3 next draws deal direct damage?
Right, but it often ends up leaving minions on board even through clear, right? I'm not sure what clear would not leave you with something on board.
Yeah. That's definitely the point of contention. And it's always what it comes down to with these, like, trying to close out the game with aggro deck situation. Do you take a small amount of guaranteed damage, or gamble on the idea that your board sticks around for larger amounts of damage? But I think when that's weighted by the fact that you are almost certainly drawing damage off the top, just going for that consistent damage with the hero power makes the most sense to me.
Now we find out he did pick Pack Tactics.
Yep.
Of course, there. I do like that over Freezing Trap. As we said, it's just more consistent damage, right? Freezing Trap can be good in certain situations, but when you're looking at the game only continue another turn, it's pretty powerful to me. And that is going to be the concede from SilverName. He could just never really get into that game and just was taking damage after damage after damage. So Bankyugi does even this up. And yet again, for us, we are going to game number 5. And this is both of these players' World Championship tournament on the line in this final game. It's going to be this Highlander Priest from Bankyugi. So for him, it didn't look great in his last series, but that's in the past now. It's all going to come down to this deck for him right now.
Yeah, it's coming down to the nitty-gritty. We've already said goodbye to one player today in Bloody Face, and she deserves great plaudits, of course. A third World Championship in a row, in and of itself, is a fantastic achievement. Right. But it is that sad moment where we are waving goodbye to a few of our players, and now the loser of this next game of Hearthstone between Bankyugi and SilverName will be saying goodbye to their World Championship run for the year. And it's really the big question mark decks going up against each other that this series is going to come down to for me, Raven. But I do think just head-to-head, straight up between these two decks, I would give a small edge to Bankyugi on his, anti-weapon tech version of Highlander Priest.
Yeah, and that's the big deal, right? We can see it there. The Cobalt Sticky Finger, the Acidic Swampoos, of course, there. And although this does look pretty strong, especially with the new additions that Priest has gained with this expansion, there are plenty of times this matchup the Bomb Warrior has just got going, right? Got the Wrench Caliber, the Priest doesn't have the weapon removal on hand quick enough, and then the damage stacks up and gets out of control. And of course there is the knock-on effect. Shuffling bombs into our Highlander deck whenever there's more than one bomb in there, it's a problem because suddenly Zephyrus is deactivated, which is one of the big cards that can make a swing in any matchup.
Yeah, and even though there is a large amount of weapon destruction, really, the big one is still a one-of, and it's the Cobalt Sticky Finger, because you can ooze a Wrench Caliber, and it'll come right back at you eventually, especially in this version of the deck, which has the added ability to tutor the Horde Pillager with the Ringmaster Watley. You're very reliably going to be hitting those weapon refreshes if you get your weapons destroyed. So if Zephyrus comes down early game to ooze the first Wrench Caliber before the duplicate bombs go in, or if the ooze itself is drawn, there's still recovery from that point. For SilverName's perspective with the Horde Pillager. But Cobalt Sticky Finger steals the weapon, it doesn't destroy it. So if that deals with the Caliber, that's really the Priest's best route to victory. And that's why I'm only at best going to call this a slight edge to the Priest, because even with all the healing and even with all those weapon destructions, you've still quite often got to find exactly that Cobalt Sticky Finger in a deck that really struggles to draw cards.
Right. Also, as well, one card to keep an eye out for on SilverName's side is Galakron as well. Sometimes the Priest just doesn't really deal well with that 3 extra damage turn after turn after turn. So, big deal there. SilverName looks like he's keeping hold of Clockwork Goblin. Is this just something to guarantee a 1 bomb starting in there, so maybe the disruption sooner, a minion to play earlier? What do you think the thought pattern is behind there? Because it doesn't seem like an obvious keep to me.
It's kind of cute, right? Like, one thing that leaps to mind immediately is this curve exactly. If you go Clockwork Goblin on 3 into Wrench Caliber on 4, your first Wrench Caliber then cannot be Zephyrus oozed, right? Because you've already put 2 bombs into the deck by the time you've swung the first charge of Wrench Caliber, which I think could end up being a relevant factor.
Obviously, have to see if it pays off for him there, Bankyugi. And after a decent start, just going to be able to get those resources high, which is something that we have seen him struggle with in the okay, that's just funny. In his previous games with this Priest, where he had some good early starts, but didn't have a way to just continue that pressure with just a lack of resources. But these cards, although of course didn't generate the best ones, still don't look too bad, at least with that insight and palm reading as well.
The missed value as well. SilverName just gets baited into throwing out his Acidic Swampoos, blissfully unaware that he could use it to destroy a 1/3 upgrade weapon a little bit down the line.
I'm going to make one of my half-silly suggestions, but I actually think it's good. The one positive of these 2 cards that are not the best for Bankyugi, the warrior cards he got from Thoughtsteel, is if he gets the Nazmani, those are 0-cost cards that will proc very easily the rest of his hand. So it is one thing to bear in mind. Even if you don't get the best spells ever, if they're cheap enough, things can happen.
That's a thing too, Raven. Shield Slam is castable with 0 armor. which means it is a targetable spell that can be cycled off this Sethic Veilweaver. Yeah, boom. Take 0, idiot.
I would have aimed that at my own Sethic every day of the week.
100%.
That's actually not a bad card. I'll be completely honest. I'm terrible and don't know the name of it because I've forgotten it. But it's the one that summons a big minion, right?
Yes.
So again, it's just more of that value, more of those big plays you can make. So that's at least a decent start here for Bankyugi.
Yeah, but again, it does feel like the matchup is quite binary, and Bankyugi can try and pressure and try and occupy board and try and put SilverName on the defensive, but it does feel like somewhat it's just going to come down to whether he can get the adequate number of weapon destructions and weapon disruptions together. But yeah, certainly the Radiance that he picked up early, the fact that he's been able to have a very powerful Sethic Veilweaver turn early on, and just his ability to load out a decent number of threats from this turn onwards, they're all small check marks, but I don't think the big box has been ticked just yet.
I think this warrants a double trade. I'm normally terrified of Sethic, but maybe I offer it too much respect.
I would have killed it. I straight up would have killed that thing. SilverName, 0 respect. Absolutely none. And there it is! There's the exact interaction, Raven. First Wrench Caliber charge, but second bomb, which means that Zephyrus cannot get any work done here already.
It's a huge deal. I do wonder if he left the Sethic up because he has Ironbeak Owl next turn, and maybe he thinks,
Sure.
well, one more turn isn't going to hurt me too badly. It does surprise me going so aggressive when he doesn't have a second generation effect for this Wrench Caliber, right? He just needs an Asmani, honestly. Now SilverName can clear with this minefield and a weapon swing, but again, if he didn't swing into the minion last turn, does he want to swing into it this turn?
I mean, as it works out, he really hasn't received that much of a punish for this at all, since the Sethic did not really generate any additional value. I do like just using up these 2 swings of a weapon, right? Because now that's done. A weapon has been destroyed. It's in the bank, and you will be able to get those back from Horde Pillager. If you mess around for too long waiting for upgrades and Krastenov and so on, there's every chance that that weapon can get sticky fingered away, and then you don't have it in the bank for those Horde Pillagers later on. So I think consuming one of those weapons is very reasonable. SilverName sets him up pretty well for the rest of the game now.
He's also not in a terrible spot to even coin out Boom next turn, right?
Right.
Three bombs in the deck?
Mm-hmm. It's the full package.
Now Bankyugi has generated a lot of resources, but nothing playable.
Now that's the priest I know and love, Raven.
I'm just looking at the hand, I'm like, I don't really think I'd do much here either. Knowing that there's that many bombs in the deck already, I do not begrudge Bankyugi at all playing this Zephyrus out, just saying, well now, the weapon equipped, or if there's a boom or something else being played, he has something on board to work with, even though it's not that great.
Positives and negatives to just using the Radiance or Radiances this turn, because obviously positive, he has mana to spend, so in terms of efficiency, might as well use it. But there is, of course, upsides to having cheap spells in hand. You know, Raven's been talking about one application, but there's also just, Wild Pyromancer and Apotheosis, which is a combination that can go together with a bunch of cheap spells in your hand as well. So Bankyugi chooses to go halfway and use the one that costs 1 mana, hold on to the one that costs 0, which I think is probably the right balance there.
And I think we're going to see Bankyugi make the just watch the world burn play and just play this Soul Mirror and just hold on. Maybe even close your eyes.
Wow, okay, that's a big deal. Zephyrus tanking 2 is a very, very big deal. Whoa, that last one put the icing on the
I
cake.
love that history bar on the left right now. That's what I want to see. It was just all bombs. Oh, Galacrond off the top, though. Oh, there aren't many good ways Priest can just... there aren't many good ways Priest can deal with this at all. 3 damage a turn now as long as SilverName wants it. He does, or could still do with a Wrench Caliber, whether that's just drawing one or getting hold of the Pirates, of course. But still, this damage is going to start to stack up, and he has another big minion to play in the form of that Evil Quartermaster as well, buffed from the Galacrond.
Bankyugi's just going in. He says, all right, fair enough. I'll take that
Let's
5
race.
armor. And let's race, exactly.
Oh, he got Wrench Caliber, though.
Is this a nuts? Evil Quartermaster Shield Slam?
And does he actually ever not play Wrench Caliber in Hero Power here?
Yeah,
I like this.
Just Face Hunter. Weave it in, right? Anything else
Yeah.
is missed
No,
damage
yeah, I
over
like
the course
this a
of the
lot.
game. Yeah,
And
I like
also,
it.
it sounds weird, but it's kind of still playing around Sticky Finger, right? Because if it's not equipped, you can't steal it. He's going to bank pretty much
Sure.
the same amount of damage anyway. So,
Yep. Good chance this is the biggest board that Bankyugi is going to see up until this point, but it looks like he is going to go for the tempo swing here instead with the broom.
yeah, unfortunately for Bankyugi, one of the worst minions he could have got from that, right? He has a lot of actually live effect or spell burst style minions in the deck, and he didn't hit any of them.
And also because of the considerations of Iron Beak Owl, that's a minion that by default was extremely small if Iron Beak Owl was going to come down and be
Right.
the answer to it.
And now each player looks like they're just going to punch each other in the face until we see who wins. Okay, raised. Dead. What are the good outcomes here?
Pass. Sethic. Probably the best offering, I
Murazon?
would imagine. Yeah, that's the problem, right? Is it was so likely to have that diluting the outcome because he had so many boombots die.
And finally we see the upgrade weapon get equipped.
SilverName all of us. Oh, I'm such a fool! Why did I tempo my ooze on turn 2? Okay. There it is. Didn't really find the opportunity to combine it with any of the weapons as he would have liked to, but just having the security of any card draw, I think, is a
Right.
welcome sight for SilverName at this point.
He just needs to keep up the pressure, and to do that, you need cards. This Deathwing is going to be nice, though. Probably in too much trouble with these bombs. Okay, both went to face for 6. Does mean he just simply sets up lethal.
Yep, and don't forget the offensive capabilities of the Iron Beak Owl here, as they have the potential to come into play.
Yep, Wave of Apathy, Inner Fire as well. Actually could have been
Yes.
something to use to reduce it down. He could play them all, then Mindrender Lucia, so he steals the owl too.
Then play the owl. Wait.
On the Mindrender, it'll be fine.
Yeah. It's true. That's true, yeah, you could do that.
What if?
This is actually pretty brutal, because on the surface, you'd be like, oh, perfect, wave. Buys me some time. But Bankyugi knows SilverName plays Iron Beak Owl, so it's not exactly a surprise that he's going to do it.
Yep.
Say your thoughts with the class now. Do try to
Yoink.
yourselves alive.
It's honestly not a bad pickup for SilverName to be denying from Bankyugi's side. I think SilverName can smell the desperation here, having seen the hand as well, and seeing how many of Bankyugi's resources he can consume here.
Yeah, and honestly, Plague of Death at this point is a pretty useless card for
Yep.
Bankyugi, right? It's not. I don't know. It's not going to kill anything. There's nothing to kill. It is just going to be hero powers every turn now.
It can be incredibly clutch in the matchup if it does get to line up against Blastmaster Boom, but
Yes.
those days have come and gone at this point, which leaves Plague of Death, looking incredibly clunky at this point. And I think that Mindrender Elucia might have been the last hurrah for Bankyugi.
Yeah. Some of these extra removal, these defensive cards being drawn for Bankyugi, but just not at the right moment in this game.
A lead Quartermaster looking for damage. That is potential damage. Nope.
SilverName, no doubt doing the quick check. Wait a minute. What rush minions do I have? If any. Of course,
Pushes the damage.
Yeah,
down
after
to a
Lackey being played, you do not value the cutting class over the hero power at this point.
Yeah, agreed. Hero Power has to go through because it's the 1 bomb breakpoint, and there are 4 bombs total in Bankyugi's deck right now. Spellkin is huge.
A simple spell should
Needs the juice. Oh, wait, yeah, he's a warrior. Never mind.
Was that ever actually Tent Crasher?
Could have been.
Just he kills the... it can't be right. Oh, I guess it could have been right. Breath of the Infinite and then rush it in to trade.
Titanic Lackey misses. Doesn't find any defense here. 1 damage. It's all SilverName needs.
He has many
Doesn't
ways
have
to
it right
generate the
now.
weapon, right?
Oh, the upgrade!
The upgrade!
And
That
it's
is
gonna
gonna be it. SilverName is going to take this game, take this series. A wave goodbye from Bankyugi there. He did his best, but it just wasn't quite enough. An extremely close series between these two players, but SilverName continues on in the tournament, fighting for his tournament life. He's going to be continuing on to play tomorrow.
Yeah, congratulations to SilverName. Of course, commiserations to Bankyugi. I'll echo what I said earlier. You know, it is a great story, and it's an important thing to have happened, to have someone, you know, march all the way through from Masters Tours to Grandmasters, all the way to the World Championship in a single year. I'm sure we'll be seeing much more of him in the future, but you know, I'm happy for SilverName. I'm happy that, you know, we had to come in and fill and do the extra match because it meant we got to cast SilverName. I enjoy casting SilverName. He's become a little bit of a cult hero for me during European GM because, you know, he's a very expressive player. He's a very emotional player, and I do find that more interesting to watch when players just, you know, wear their heart on their sleeve, like Casey does, like SilverName does, like Boar used to do a couple of years ago before he got all boring and sterile and ended up at Blizzard. What do you know? I do really want to give a shout out to SilverName, not in the least because he really keeps the hopes of the one true bracket alive, Raven, and that is our European Casters prediction bracket with both Yala and SilverName now on course to potentially make it to that top 4.